So I'm finally putting some time into learning how to drift on Forza Horizon 5 on my Xbox Series X, but also on Assetto Corsa over on my PC. And I'm doing so with the Logitech Pro wheel and pedal setup that we reviewed a little while ago. I'll put that link up here in the corner if you want to check out that video. We were also using the Next Level Racing Wheel Stand 2.0, which is what we're going to talk about quite a bit throughout this video. Now, I still have a long ways to go. I'm not a pro drifter by any means, but it has been a really fun process to try to get better at it, and I kind of wanted to share some of that experience with you through this video. So throughout this, I've watched some, YouTube videos on kind of getting into drifting, and I've always felt like I've been able to do it decently well on a controller, but for some reason, when you transition over to an actual wheel and pedal setup, it is a lot more challenging. I've had to spend a lot more time getting used to it. And so I've watched a few, YouTube videos kind of highlighting different tips and techniques and setups that you can do and what to look for when you are drifting, what to avoid, what techniques to use, like kicking the clutch to initiate a drift. And it's been really helpful, but really the most helpful part of this has been actually sitting down and, driving, getting more used to it, getting a feel for how the cars and the wheels handle, when to transition, when to hold the wheel, and most importantly, when to add or take off some throttle. I still have a long ways to go, but like I said, being able to actually chain a couple drifts together and kind of move through a course a little bit has been an absolute blast. And one fun thing here that I've been doing on Forza Horizon 5 is that I took this 68 Barracuda and turned it into a drift car because my dad has a 67 Barracuda, which is the same color, kind of this light cream color. And so that has been a lot of fun to use this thing that he would never drift or drive recklessly at all with this thing, but it's been kind of fun to use a car that I grew up with seeing in the garage and actually see what it can do kind of out here drifting as well. Over on Assetto Corsa on my PC, there are a couple tracks that I've been just kind of getting used to it. There's a drift track, then I also downloaded the clutch kickers track, which was thanks to a YouTube video that I saw. And so those have both been fun to do. And I've also been using the BMW E30 drift setup. So that's been what has felt the most comfortable for me and what I've seen the most progress with. And so that's kind of some of the footage that you'll see in the background here. So now let's talk about the wheel stand 2.0 a little bit. So this is the 2.0. They have an older wheel stand, Next Level Racing, but this one, they've made some changes to it, everything from like the design to the manufacturing process. So they've taken a lot of feedback from older models and kind of put it into this one. And this is coming in at $250. So still a significant investment. That's as much as you can spend on entry-level kind of wheel and pedal setup, something from Logitech with their G920 or G923 on sale. But what you're getting for that is a pretty robust setup here that can be folded up so it's easier to store. But it also is definitely more durable and better suited for more powerful wheels than, clamping it onto your desk, at least in my experience with my height adjustable desk that I usually use. So having something like this that's, a metal frame that can take the up to 11 Newton meters of torque that the Logitech Pro wheel can produce has been a very nice upgrade for me. I felt like it was always shaking my desk and my monitors quite a bit when I was using this wheel clamped to it. So having this has been a nice upgrade. One of the other major upgrades there is the ability to actually mount and position exactly where you want the pedals. That was a big issue that I had with the Pro pedal setup from Logitech. Unlike the G923, which had that awesome little grippy feet, or what exactly they had on the bottom, but it worked really well on carpet not to slide around. And that was not quite the case with the Pro pedal setup. I found it moving quite a bit on carpet. So having something rigid like this that I could mount the pedals to definitely worked a lot better for me, and being able to, basically position them exactly where you want has been really beneficial as well. And covering the setup of this real quick, there is some significant setup involved. It's a lot of nuts and bolts, but once you do, everything feels pretty solid. One thing you can notice, maybe you've noticed it here in the video, is that there is some flex in this. And along with that, I don't know if you can hear that squeak, that's something that's developed probably within the last month or so. I've had this thing for a couple months since I did the Logitech review. I did find that if I kind of like tighten up or play with the bolts a little bit, that can kind of help that squeak. but at the same time, it's pretty unfortunate. So usually I have my speakers turned up and you don't really hear it very much, but when I have it turned down to record this video, you can hear it a little bit more. So with the Wheel Stand 2.0, you do need to have your own chair. There isn't any sort of chair provided. That's something you can upgrade to a little bit further on if you want to, but it's a pretty considerable upgrade to get to that. So the purpose of this thing is to use your own gaming chair. So I'm using the Titan Evo from Secret Labs, and this has worked really well for me. Another nice upgrade with the Wheel Stand 2.0 over previous models is that they have the little game chair cradle. So this is where the two wheels from your gaming chair can sit in, and so even under, some pretty hard braking force, your chair won't move backwards. So that's been a really great improvement as well, because these Pro pedals can take quite a bit of force on here, so you can really crank that up if you want to. But you don't have to worry about the chair moving at all. And in my experience, it's worked really well. It's never popped out of that cradle, so I've been really happy with how that has performed. I'm not using anything here, but the Wheel Stand 2.0 does also include a mount for a shifter or a handbrake, and with that, you can adjust both the height of it. It can be on the left or the right side. You can also adjust the angle of this portion on the right. So, depending on your setup, you can easily use that. Right now, there's not a shifter that works with the Logitech Pro wheel, unfortunately, so I don't have anything set up, but hopefully in the future I'll be adding one of those to make that a little bit easier. So another part of this setup, we talked about the shifter mount a little bit, we talked about the pedal setup a little bit. This wheel deck can also be angled quite considerably for getting the perfect angle for you and your setup. There are 2 bolts on either side. The hinge bolts can stay in, but the actual adjuster bolts, those need to be completely removed, and then you can swing the deck up and down and then put a bolt back in to hold it in place. So it's not the most seamless way of adjusting it. Hopefully you don't have to do it very frequently, but once you get it actually adjusted and set up, then you can just leave it in there and everything's fine. And as far as mounting and wheelbases on here, I haven't tried a whole bunch of different wheelbases on it. I've pretty much only put the Logitech Pro on here, but they say that it's compatible with most major manufacturers. So anything from Logitech or from Thrustmaster, you shouldn't have to worry about that on here. It should all be pre-drilled and it should be well set up for that. And another part of the setup and part of the adjustability is you can raise this wheel deck, up and down with the adjustments on here. Once again, it is 2 bolts on either side, and you have to physically, raise and lower this entire deck. So it can be a little bit harder to do. Probably not something you want to do frequently, if you're swapping between 2 different drivers. But at the same time, you can do it. The adjustability is there. So it's once again, that's the benefit of this over something like clamping it just on a desk, is that you have that added adjustability in here for really getting it set up to your liking and your needs as a driver. So we talked about setting everything up and getting up and running with this, and overall in use, I've been really happy with this. But here are a couple things that I'm not the biggest fan of when it comes to Wheel Stand 2.0. First off, we already kind of talked about it. There's that flexing in the wheel and also the squeaking in the mount. That's something, given how beefy this thing is in general, it's a little annoying that it still has that flex to it and still makes that squeaking noise. So that's one thing, I'd love to see addressed or changed. It's a little unfortunate. Another thing that I didn't really anticipate is that, one of the benefits of this is that it is movable. You can fold it up and you can, place it up against the wall, and it actually, when you fold it up, it doesn't take up a whole lot of space, and it's pretty easy to get out of the way if you need to save space in your room for something else. The only thing is it gets pretty heavy with everything mounted on it. So it can be a little bit cumbersome. It can be a little bit of an event to actually move this around. So that's something you want to take into consideration. If you have trouble lifting heavy weight, then that might be a little bit of an issue for you. It's also like there's not a great way to grab the whole unit to move around either. It's not like there are a couple handles you can just easily grab onto. I did see that Next Level Racing also has a wheel stand DD. I assume it's for direct drives. It doesn't fold up like the Wheel Stand 2.0 does. It has a more rigid frame, but it has casters on front, so you can kind of just lift it up and move it around your room. So that might be something that would make actually moving this a little bit easier, but it's still possible to pack this thing up, fold fold it up and move it around, which makes it pretty convenient to get it out of the way when you need to. And we talked about it a little bit. This thing is upgradable. There are a ton of add-ons Next Level Racing has. Everything from multiple monitor stands to keyboard stands, and you can even get a seat add-on to put on here as well. So if you want to make a full cockpit setup, you don't want to use your gaming chair anymore, that's something you can do with this. It's pretty significant investment to add all that stuff, but once again, that's something you can do. But considering how much flex this has in it, I haven't tried many other any other sim racing cockpits, so maybe that's something that's common and standard. I don't know. But for me, I'd like to see something that's a little bit more rigid if I was going to invest, a ton of money into getting this set up for a wheel stand and then, getting a chair or a seat for it as well. But that being said, going from a setup at my desk, just clamping things on there, having the pedals on the floor, to having a dedicated mounting place for my wheelbase and for my pedals has been a huge improvement. Also, even though I just harped on, how heavy it is and how cumbersome it can be to move around, it's better than setting up the wheels and pedals separately every single time. When I'm playing at my PC, I have to remove it quite often because I still use that PC for making videos as well. So I can't have everything set up there constantly. So being able to fold it up and move it around, it is definitely helpful. That is definitely one benefit of the Next Level Racing Wheel Stand 2.0. As far as pricing and the market and where this sits, I feel like it sits, right where it should. You could go from Next Level Racing and get the GT Lite or the FGT Lite, which has a seat already built into it, but you might not have the durability or the strength to really keep up with more powerful wheels. That's kind of your concern there. But it's a little bit more affordable, still folds up, a great option there. But if you want something that's more sturdy, then you have to spend quite a bit more money to get to that, and that's something that Next Level Racing can provide you with, or there are other brands as well. So for $250, if you do want to take your sim racing setup to the next level, if you're playing on a desk with like a Thrustmaster T300 and you want something that provides a little bit more stability or a little bit more positioning, this, I think, is definitely worth considering. The level of adjustability in here is great. It's still foldable. It can get out of the way, but at the same time, I've cranked this wheel up. This is the Logitech Pro wheel. It can go up to 11 Newton meters of torque, which is a lot. But this thing can handle it even when I crank it up. It doesn't feel like it's going to break or anything like that. So even though there is some flex there, it still feels like it's strong enough to keep up with some really powerful wheels. All right, well, that's going to do it for this little kind of video talking about drifting and talking about the Wheel Stand 2.0 from Next Level Racing. Let us know what you think about it down in the comments below. If you have any more tips for drifting, different things to practice or different tutorials that have helped you, please link those down in the comments so I can check those out. Maybe we'll check back in a couple months again and see how my progress has been, but this has been a lot of fun for the last little while trying to get into drifting and figure it out. And just given the advances in sim racing and sim racing technology and games, it makes it a lot of fun to do in sim racing as well. Sure, it can be really frustrating at times, but very rewarding when you do start to actually chain together some drifts. All right, and if you're looking for some other videos to watch, I'll link to our review of the Logitech Pro wheel over here, as well as our most recent video. And thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up so other people can find it easier, and consider subscribing. This is Jordan with 9 to 5 Toys.